Have you ever experienced complete darkness? The kind that envelops you, making you feel like you're the only person left in the world? I mean the kind of darkness that swallows you whole, where every shadow seems to stretch endlessly, and every corner hides an unknown terror. It's a place where silence screams louder than any thunder, where the absence of sound becomes a deafening roar in your ears. In such moments, your senses, starved of input, begin to betray you. Every creak, every whisper of wind becomes a phantom, a figment of your imagination. I have. And it's not an experience I'll ever forget. It was a night that started like any other, but quickly turned into something out of a nightmare. It began innocently enough. A stormy summer night, the kind where the air is thick with humidity and the sky is a canvas of dark, swirling clouds. Rain lashed against the windows of my small apartment, each drop a tiny hammer against the glass. Wind howled like a banshee, tearing at the roof, making the walls shudder with each gust. I remember feeling oddly at ease, cocooned within my little sanctuary. The storm outside was a distant reality, a world away from my cozy refuge. Then the lights flickered, once, twice, and then darkness. It was as if the storm had reached out and snuffed out the light with a single breath. The storm, it seemed, had finally claimed its victim. My little haven, usually so full of warmth and light, was now plunged into an abyss of nothingness. The darkness was so complete it felt like a living entity pressing in on all sides. I chuckled, a nervous habit, and fumbled for my phone. The familiar weight of it in my hand was a small comfort in the oppressive darkness. As I waited for the familiar glow of my phone screen, a chilling thought pierced through the darkness. What if the power didn't come back? What if I was trapped in this void forever? The storm hadn't just taken the lights, it had taken the silence with it. The once comforting sounds of the storm now seemed sinister, each crash of thunder a reminder of my isolation. I stared out the window, watching the rain pour down in relentless sheets, feeling a sense of dread settle in my chest. The world outside was a chaotic mess, but inside it was a void, a vacuum of silence and darkness. In that moment, I realized how fragile our sense of security is, how easily it can be shattered by something as simple as a power outage. The unsettling silence was a stark reminder of our vulnerability, of how small we are in the grand scheme of things. My phone screen flickered to life, a tiny beacon in the overwhelming darkness. The soft glow was a stark contrast to the pitch-black room, offering a small sense of comfort amidst the chaos. Relief washed over me, quickly replaced by a surge of annoyance. The brief moment of hope was dashed as I realized the power outage was more than just a minor inconvenience. Of course, the power would go out during the worst storm of the year. Typical. The howling wind and relentless rain only added to the sense of isolation, making the darkness feel even more oppressive. I dialed my electricity provider, the automated voice on the other end informing me of widespread outages due to the storm. Great, just great. The monotone voice offered no comfort, only confirming that I was stuck in this situation for the foreseeable future. I sighed, resigning myself to a night of candlelight and boredom. The flickering flames cast eerie shadows on the walls, adding to the unsettling atmosphere. As I fumbled for candles in a drawer, a flicker of movement outside the window caught my eye. The brief glimpse was enough to send a shiver down my spine. It was gone before I could focus, swallowed by the darkness between bursts of lightning. The storm seemed to be playing tricks on my mind, making me question what I had seen. I froze, heart pounding, straining to see through the rain-streaked window. The relentless downpour made it nearly impossible to discern anything clearly, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was out there. Was it just the wind playing tricks? Or was there something out there, lurking in the shadows watching me? The thought sent a chill down my spine, and I couldn't help but feel a growing sense of unease. The storm raged on, and with each flash of lightning I found myself peering into the darkness, hoping to catch another glimpse of whatever it was. The night stretched on, filled with the sounds of the storm and the unsettling feeling that I was not alone. The insistent ringing of the phone shattered the silence, making me jump. I fumbled for the receiver, my heart still racing from the imagined figure outside. "Hello?" My voice sounded strained, even to my own ears. A raspy voice, barely a whisper, answered from the other end. "Help me." The line went dead. I stared at the phone, my blood turning to ice. It couldn't be. It sounded like... My mind raced back to the shadowy figure outside. Had it been real? Was someone out there, hurt, needing help, or was it my imagination, fueled by the storm and the isolation? I had to do something. I couldn't ignore the call for help, even if it was just a figment of my imagination. Grabbing a heavy flashlight, I ventured out into the storm. The wind whipped at me, the rain stinging my face. Each flash of lightning illuminated a world transformed, trees bending to the will of the wind, shadows dancing menacingly. I scanned the street, my heart pounding with each gust of wind, and then I saw it. A faint glow emanating from the park across the street. A glimmer of hope in the desolate landscape. Could this be the source of the call? Section 5, Unseen Eyes. As I approached the park, the feeling of unease intensified. The air was thick with an unsettling silence, broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves. It felt as though the park itself was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. The hairs on the back of my neck prickled with a sense of being watched. It was an instinctual reaction, a primal fear that gripped me tightly. My heart pounded in my chest, each beat echoing in the stillness of the night. I shone my flashlight into the darkness, the beams swallowed by the dense foliage. The light seemed to be absorbed by the shadows, revealing nothing but an impenetrable wall of black. It was as if the darkness itself was alive, shifting and moving just beyond the reach of my light. The glow I had seen was gone, replaced by an oppressive blackness that seemed to pulsate with unseen energy. It was a living, breathing entity, wrapping itself around me, suffocating me with its presence. I felt a cold sweat break out on my forehead. I could hear the wind rustling the leaves, but it sounded different here, almost whispering. The whispers were faint, barely audible, but they carried a sense of urgency, a warning that I couldn't quite decipher. It was as if the trees themselves were trying to communicate with me. And then I heard it again. A sound that sent a shiver down my spine, a noise that didn't belong in the stillness of the night. A faint sound like someone dragging their feet across the pavement, coming from deeper within the park. It was slow, deliberate, and filled with a sense of dread. Each step seemed to echo in the silence, growing louder and more menacing with each passing second. Each step sent chills down my spine. My breath caught in my throat, and I felt a cold, clammy fear grip my heart. I wanted to run, to escape the unseen eyes that I felt were watching me, but my legs felt like lead. Someone or something was in the park with me, concealed by the shadows and the storm. The feeling of being watched was overwhelming, and I knew I had to get out of there before it was too late. But the darkness seemed to close in around me, making every step a struggle. Section 6. Panic sets in. Fear, primal and consuming, gripped me. I wanted to run, to escape the suffocating darkness of the park, but I was rooted to the spot. The whispering grew louder, closer. The flashlight trembled in my hand, casting erratic shadows that danced and writhed like living things. I swung the beam around, desperately searching for the source of the sound, but the darkness held its secrets close. The dragging sound stopped right behind me. I spun around, my heart hammering against my ribs, but there was nothing there. Only the relentless rain and the wind whispering through the trees. Me. Section 9. A desperate escape. I didn't sleep that night. Every creak of the building, every gust of wind against my window sent shivers down my spine. The muddy handprint on my door remained a constant reminder of the terror I had experienced. As soon as the first rays of dawn pierced through the storm clouds, I packed a bag. I couldn't stay there, not after what I had experienced. I left a note for my landlord, mumbling some excuse about needing a break, and walked away from the apartment, away from the park without looking back. Section 10. The aftermath. I moved to a new city, far away from the memories of that night. I tried to forget the storm, the phone call, the handprint, but some things are impossible to erase. The darkness still haunts me. I avoid storms, flinch at sudden noises, and can't shake the feeling that I'm being watched. Section 11. A haunting reminder. The experience left me with more than just fear. It left me with a question that chills me to my core. What if it wasn't the storm that took the silence that night? What if something, or someone, wanted me to hear that phone call? And what if they decide to call again?